I still remember the hollow quiet of the house after my husband passed, the way the walls seemed to listen, the way the air carried memories I wasn't ready to face. Some nights I would sit on the edge of my bed and feel the weight of silence settle beside me like a presence I didn't ask for. Grief has a way of coloring everything, even the light that slips through the curtains in the morning. For months, I moved through life in a blur, every step careful, every breath measured. When Daniel, my husband's closest friend, offered to move in for a while to help me manage the home, I said yes before thinking it through. It wasn't because I needed someone to fix the roof or carry groceries. It was because I needed someone who still remembered him the way I did. Someone who could sit in the living room without shifting uncomfortably at the sight of the photos I still couldn't bring myself to take down. Daniel arrived with a single suitcase and that familiar quiet strength he had always carried. He didn't try to fill the silence or push me to talk. He simply moved through the rooms with a kind of gentle respect, as if he understood the fragile balance I was trying to maintain. He'd been around for years, visiting often, always a steady presence. But living together, even temporarily, created moments I hadn't expected. Small conversations at breakfast, passing each other in the hallway, the subtle warmth in his voice when he asked how I was holding up. At first, we orbited each other carefully, two people trying to keep life stitched together. I would find him fixing little things around the house, tightening loose cabinet handles, replacing light bulbs, sweeping the porch. When I thanked him, he'd smile in that quiet way that made something flutter deep inside me, an emotion I wasn't ready to name. One evening, I walked into the kitchen and found him stirring a pot on the stove. The smell of warm spices filled the air. He looked up at me with a soft grin. "You forgot to eat again," he said, not accusing, just concerned. I laughed under my breath, a little embarrassed. "I've been forgetting a lot of things lately." He handed me a spoon to taste. It was simple soup, nothing extravagant, but it warmed me from the inside in a way I hadn't felt in months. "You don't have to take care of me," I said quietly. "I know," he replied, meeting my eyes. "But I want to." That was the first time I realized how often his gaze lingered on me, not in a way that felt wrong or heavy, but in a way that made me feel seen. Truly seen. And it scared me a little, because I felt something shift inside me, something gentle and unexpected. We fell into an easy rhythm after that. Morning coffee on the back steps, shared silence as we watched birds land on the fence. He started reading in the evenings, his soft page-turning somehow comforting. Some nights, when the grief crept in and settled on my shoulders, he would sit nearby without speaking, letting his presence be enough. But it wasn't just grief that filled the quiet anymore. It was something else, something warm and steady that grew between us like a slow-burning ember. One afternoon, rain began to drum softly against the windows. I stood by the living room shelves, dusting old books I hadn't touched in months. Daniel walked in holding a mug of tea and placed it beside me. "Thought you might want this," he said. His fingers brushed mine, an accidental touch, feather-light but enough to still the air around us. I felt a warmth rush through me, not overwhelming, just undeniable. "Thank you," I whispered, and for a moment we simply stood there, close enough that I could feel the quiet strength of him beside me. I tried to shake the feeling, but the truth was harder to ignore each day. I started noticing little things, how he always remembered to refill my water glass before bed, how he'd look at me with a softness that didn't need words, how he sometimes smiled to himself when he thought I wasn't watching. Weeks passed like this, calm and unhurried. But one evening, something changed. I was sitting on the porch swing as the last bits of dusk faded into the horizon. The air was cool, carrying the scent of damp earth. Daniel stepped outside, wiping his hands on a cloth after fixing something in the garage. "You always sit here when you're thinking," he said lightly as he settled beside me. I smiled. "You notice everything, don't you?" "Only when it's about you," he murmured, almost too quiet to hear. My breath caught. It wasn't what he said, it was the uncertainty in his voice, as if he regretted letting the words slip. A long silence settled between us, comfortable at first, then charged with something neither of us spoke about. "Daniel," I began, but I didn't know where the sentence was going. He turned his head slightly toward me. "You don't have to say anything. I know this is complicated." "It feels different," I admitted quietly. "And I don't know what to do with that." His voice was gentle. "I don't want to make anything harder for you." What he didn't say, what neither of us dared to, hung in the air like the last note of a song waiting to fade. The days after that were filled with an unspoken awareness. We moved through the house more carefully, traded glances that lingered a little too long, shared smiles that carried meaning beneath the surface. And still, neither of us pushed past the invisible line we'd drawn. But life has a way of nudging you when you try too hard to stay still. One night, electricity flickered out during a storm. The house fell into darkness except for the soft glow of a single candle Daniel lit and placed on the table. I stood near the window, watching lightning tear across the sky. "You okay?" he asked softly behind me. I nodded, though I wasn't entirely sure. Thunder rolled in the distance, deep and steady. When I turned, he was closer than I expected. Close enough to see the faint worry in his eyes. Close enough to feel the warmth of him even in the cool air. "I've been trying to give you space," he said, voice low. "But I don't want to pretend I don't care." There it was, the truth I had been afraid to let surface. "Daniel," I whispered, my chest tightening in a way that felt painfully human. There were moments, before everything happened, when I wondered what it would be like if things were different. If I had met you first. If life had taken a different path. He exhaled, a breath that sounded like something long held finally released. "I used to think the same thing," he admitted. "I never said anything. I didn't want to hurt anyone." We stood in silence, the weight of years, hidden feelings, unfinished thoughts, settling softly between us. "I never imagined we'd end up here," I said. "Neither did I," he whispered. "But I'm glad I'm here with you." The storm outside softened into a steady rain. Something inside me softened too. I stepped a little closer, not touching him, just letting the space shrink naturally. His eyes lowered for a moment, not out of shyness, but out of what felt like honesty, bare, unguarded. "I don't know what comes next," I said quietly. "You don't need to," he replied. "We can take it one moment at a time." His hand lifted slowly, as if giving me every chance to pull away. But I didn't. When his fingers brushed mine, it was gentle, warm, grounding. More comfort than anything else. More reassurance than any words could have offered.